Welcome to PC Gaming Tech Summary. I'm your host Gamer, and today we look at ASUS products with pricing. Yes, ASUS has been kind enough to allow me to include video footage into my videos. So thank you, ASUS. I have no sponsors. ASUS is not a sponsor. I wanted to let you know that the 5070 Ti, the 5060 Ti 16 gigabyte, and the 5060 16 gigabyte are at end of life. What? End of life. Yes, they're not going to make any more of those GPUs. All right? Which is a bit sad. Okay? It has to do with memory, I would assume, and businesses and AI gobbling up all these PC parts and causing prices to rise. Yes. Well, so, for instance, ASUS has just released the 5070 Ti Proart card. Well, now it's been announced it's at end of life, and this is an NVIDIA announcement. So, if you want 5070 Ti, 5060 Ti 16 gigabyte, or the 5060 16 gigabyte, then you might want to go out, before they're all gone, but that's your decision. AMD has not announced any of their GPUs going to end of life, and I will do a full review of the AMD 9060 graphics card. I had it for quite some time, and it's still going. 3-year warranty with the Sapphire, yes, pure Sapphire, yeah, very nice. Okay, so I guess I've given you a clue on the result of the review. All right, NVIDIA has not given gamers what they want or need. Don't expect any new graphics cards from NVIDIA until maybe 2027, because the Super Series, yes, the Super Series of NVIDIA graphics cards, as far as we know, has been canceled. So there will be no new cards coming out in the near future that we know of. Also, that cooperation between NVIDIA and Intel, does it have anything to do with gamers? No, nothing. It is for enterprise, for business. So they need some x86 type CPUs to go with the AI GPUs. So that's what that's about. Sit right back, have a cup of coffee, and we'll get into it.
But with that, let's go ahead and get into new monitors that we have, and we'll go from there. So the first monitor that we're going to actually touch on is going to be this guy. This is going to be the ROG Strix XG27ACDMS. It's a big name in terms of the model number, but I think this is going to be definitely one of my most exciting releases. Now, right now, we already have offered a pretty price aggressive model, which is a 1440p, 240 hertz glossy based derivative of our original ROG Swift PG27AQDM. And that model has sometimes even slipped below its MSRP price point, and you could sometimes have seen it as go down as little as like 620. Around that price point, like 650 to about like 630 ish in terms of that price band, but that's been due to promotions. This panel I find really exciting because I think it's going to kind of be the best almost bang for your buck based model that's going to be available. We do have another updated model that will be coming that will be using the new a WOLED based panel technology as opposed to QD-OLED. ASUS is the only manufacturer in the industry right now that you will have that offers both QD-OLED and WOLED. The majority of the competitors on the market are generally going to be QD-OLED solutions, with the exception of LG, which LG of course offers WOLED solutions, but ASUS actually offers both, along with all of the kind of special sauce that we bring that I feel allows us to offer best-in-class displays, regardless of whether you're looking at our QD-OLED solutions or our WOLED solutions. So let's go ahead and take a look at this model and touch on this one. As you can see, the price point is going to be coming in, I think, at a great price for this display, which is going to be at $699. If you kind of compare this to the original spec for even the original kind of 240 hertz, which we launched in the market, which was around $1,000, I think this is a great deal in terms that if you're have that bit of a higher budget, right? Because I think for a lot of people, they're generally usually somewhere around $250 to about maybe $450, maybe $500 for a monitor, you're still looking at LCDs. If you've got a little bit more money to spend and you really want to step into HDR gaming, you want to step into a higher refresh rate level, you want that beautiful contrast experience that OLED gets and that really low pixel response time, this is going to definitely be one of the most compelling options that you have available. So what do you get with this guy? This is going to be QD OLED, 280 hertz, so a bit higher than the standard 240 hertz that we offer with the models that we already have at kind of the entry price point. You're also going to be getting the latest generation of our OLED Care technology. ASUS has more OLED Care preventive technologies than any other manufacturer, and we also exclusively have this Neo proximity sensor, which this is a small what's called the time of flight sensor that is built into the monitor. It can very accurately detect your depth down to the millimeter level, and you can either pick preset targets or you can manually set your own distance. The great thing is, let's say you get a delivery at the door. If you get up, it will then turn off the display, but it just shuts off the display. It's very different than if your monitor or your system was to go into sleep or hibernation, then that can move stuff all over the display or can crash something. It can cause more issues. This actually just turns the monitor in off state. When you come back, it'll resume back up. So if you were in the middle of the game, you just walked away for a bit and you come back 15 minutes later, then you're good to go. But if we can help to keep the monitor off when it doesn't need to be on, we can bring down the temperature. And again, that contributes to the overall lifespan, along with a lot of the really cool management features that we have within our OLED Care, which you can control on the fly, either using the on-screen display, or what I prefer, which is using Display Widget Center, which is a great way to be able to customize everything in the operating system. And you can use your keyboard and your mouse. A couple of other really nice things. We're the only vendor right now that offers adjustable HDR. So if you're not enjoying HDR gaming, we actually allow you to go in and actually tailor HDR customization with specialized presets. This is pretty cool because some games don't actually have HDR customization available to them. So this allows you to kind of fine tune the experience, because some HDR implementations, depending on the game or how it was mastered, you might want to actually dial things in to kind of optimally get the best experience. So we're giving you just more control, more flexibility. Factory calibration. Aspect ratio control is pretty cool because that actually allows you to run the monitor, let's say like in a different aspect ratio. Instead of like 27 inches, you could run it down to like 24 inches for maybe more competitive shooters, tighten up that field of view, and you can actually have different refresh rates and different resolution targets that you can actually dial in, which is pretty sweet. You get Type-C connectivity, which does support DisplayPort in terms of the actual video signal, and then higher than standard charging, but it's not full ultra high power charging. So like our flagship Swift monitors will have like 90 watts of power delivery. This is 15 watts. So this is going to be good for like charging your keyboard, your mice, your headsets, your phones, things along those lines. Of course, 3-year warranty along with burn-in protection, our uniform brightness limiting software. And this unit also still has, often overlooked, let me see if we have a little picture for it here. If we go into the gallery view, a lot of people miss this, but this also still maintains the little threaded mount design. The threaded mount design is really convenient, where if you want to be able to thread on something like a keyboard, a microphone, a camera, or a light on top of the monitor, you can do that. Or you can actually even get like a dual bracket adapter, and you can put like a camera and a light, and you don't have to have like extra arms and stuff like that. So a lot of our RG displays all have this actual threaded mount design. A lot of people actually miss out on this. So I'm a big fan of actually always calling that feature out there. So this is going to be our kind of new entry in, along with the upcoming OLED offering, and then also, of course, some promotions that we have on the AQDM monitor. You've got actually quite a number of options, and we're looking at 1080p. So again, this is where I was saying great maybe for a first-time builder or somebody that, like I said, doesn't want to focus so much on, like I said, that higher refresh rate with the higher resolution. So let me go ahead and give you guys the breakdown on this guy. And here, we'll go ahead and break it down. So this is going to, again, be under the new TUF Gaming 5 series. Quite a number of displays here, and especially, like I said, if your budget's in around that like 250 to like 450 bucks, definitely take a look at either the price promos that we have currently on the XG series monitors under the RG Strix lineup, or these TUF Gaming 5 monitors. There's some really great options that we have there at that 250, 299, 300, 350 kind of dollars. So this one, you'll see 24.5 inch. It's a fast IPS, so it's the latest generation IPS based panel technology, 310 hertz. So for many users, they're still, at that 144 or 165. So here you're getting a massive uplift, not only in the panel performance, where it'll also have better pixel response time, but you're also getting that huge uplift in terms of the refresh rate performance. This is certified for VRR performance with AMD FreeSync. It doesn't have formal G-Sync compatibility. So to keep that in mind, you could essentially force G-Sync operation, but there is a difference between our monitors that also do actually hallmark G-Sync compatibility, because that means that it did actually have to get qualified and pass through NVIDIA's labs to formally accept the G-Sync compatibility standard. Does not mean that the monitor cannot run in that mode. And some people wonder about that, is that there is a difference between attempting to force G-Sync compliance as opposed to actually it being certified with G-Sync compatibility or full G-Sync certification. ELMB Sync is really cool to be able to see on a monitor this inexpensive, where we have our backlight strobing technology, which is great to be able to improve motion clarity performance, especially if you can't get up to around this ultra high refresh rate. If you want to run at a lower refresh rate, you get a little bit of a brightness reduction, but you can definitely see a notable increase in terms of the motion clarity performance. So this can be a nice option for maybe people want to be able to mix this up with a console, or maybe you've got an older system and, you know, later on you're going to upgrade to maybe a little bit of a faster system that could get you higher refresh rates and support those higher levels that the monitor supports, but maybe you're only able to, on average, be able to do like 160 to like 200 or something like that, right? So in that regard, the ELMB Sync is a very cool technology. This is also a higher than standard brightness monitor. Most people's entry-level displays are usually around 200 to 250 nits. This has a higher than standard brightness. And then also the almost essentially 100% sRGB coverage is great, because it means it's a well-rounded monitor for pretty much gaming and for general use, because if you can hit that 100% sRGB coverage, it's really solid. Now, that is going to be a difference when you take a look at some of the higher end ROG XG series monitors, or you look at some of the higher grade TUF gaming displays in the 1440p segment. They are going to be what's called wide color gamut. So they're going to go over 100%. They're going to be like maybe like 110, 120, 130% sRGB. And what that generally just means is you're going to see a little bit more punchy colors. The colors will seem more pronounced, more dynamic. The sRGBs are just going to be kind of really true to life, really solid, really accurate. I love 100% sRGB. Generally, for my general usage, I will always default my monitor 100% sRGB. And then only if maybe I'm gaming will I go into a wide gamut mode, or I might go into an HDR mode. Although, while this does say HDR, because this is not a mini LED technology, and it doesn't support a much higher level of brightness, I would not game in HDR in this level, but it does support a higher standard than brightness. Also a big fan, this monitor does have our display widget center. So again, you can control all of the OSD options in the operating system. The last thing that I'll also go ahead and note here is, let me go ahead and just go over into the tech specs and touch on this here. So we'll scroll down a little bit. You get DisplayPort, 2 HDMIs, and a 3.5 millimeter jack. And this is actually pretty nice right here. If you actually take a look at the adjustment range, you do get tilt, swivel, pivot, and height adjustment, and also that tripod mount. So many times at this low of a price point, you usually only get kind of tilt on the monitor. So still actually getting 4-way with the tripod is actually a pretty nice range. And then of course, all of our displays do come with a 3-year warranty, which is standard across the board. So again, if you're looking for a kind of a nice sweet spot display, first time gaming, or just looking to kind of jump into something that's got a really well-rounded spec, I think this is a great option. And then literally, if you just jumped up to $300, if you're wondering what you could get for like $300, so if you were to spend $100 more, although we do have a couple of number of monitors literally at like about $20 intervals going up from this 200 to 300, but at 300, we have a TUF Gaming 5 series monitor, which would be a 1440p wide gamut based monitor, and also support 300 hertz as well. So you could literally get double kind of like the resolution, right? Still ultra high refresh rate and a lot of the great feature set. So I'm a big fan of that display. Okay. So we've got some new motherboards to be able to go ahead and touch on. The first one is actually going to be for those that are interested in a micro ATX based motherboard. And this is going to be the TUF Gaming B850 M Plus Wi-Fi. So this is going to be a great option. So like if you want to build in something like our AP201 or AP202 or A21, any number of our ATX micro ATX chassis, or then again any other chassis for some from some of our partners out there, this is a great option. Not too expensive in terms of the price point, especially when you kind of look at all of the spec that you're going to get on this model. So let's go ahead and bring this guy up here. And we'll take a look here. So when we take a look at it, it's going to be B850 chipset. It's got some really nice dense heat sinks on there to be able to make sure that you got stability and reliability, whether you want to keep it stock or overclocked. Power delivery is more than enough in terms of a 14 plus 2 plus 1 base power delivery design for any CPU. Doesn't matter, you want to run a 9700X to an X3D to a 9950X, everything would be supported on here. This unit is also going to be supporting some really nice IO specs. So you get 20 gigabit space, you get Wi-Fi 7, integrated I/O shield, 2.5 gigabit Ethernet. You're also going to even get the quick release design for the graphics card, which I love. So even on a micro ATX board, you get the quick release based design implementation. When we take a look here and we jump into some of the base spec, it's also well balanced in terms that the M.2 configuration is going to be, you can see right here that you have a total of 3 M.2 slots that are on the motherboard. So that's nice for micro ATX based board. One of those is going to be Gen 5 and the other 2 are going to be Gen 4 that are going to be on this motherboard. And then when you take a look at the actual port configuration, quite nice in terms of the actual total port count that you have. Of course, internally you got a Type C and then you got a legacy USB 3. So that's going to be a port there. Then you got 2 ports there. Then you got your USB ports internally. But if we head over to the rear, let's go ahead and take a look at the rear. I think this is really nice for a micro ATX board. So you got 4, then you got 2, then you got another 2 here. So that's going to be 4, that's going to be 8, and then you can 12. So 12 ports on a micro ATX board. I think that's a fantastic range of options right there. Then you get your DP, your HDMI, your Wi-Fi 7 with the quick antenna design. You also even get a clear CMOS button. This is exceedingly rare. Pushed for this to be able to get this. We don't normally have clear CMOS on TUF gaming best motherboards. Even in this most recent generation, we made a big push to now introduce clear CMOS across all ROG motherboards, including ROG Strix. So in the last generation was the first time that we actually included from the Dash A to the Dash H to the Dash E to the Dash F, any one of the ROG Strix models, they all had clear CMOS, where we used to only give you clear CMOS on the Dash E, and then the models even below that on the ROG Strix didn't have that. So this is actually really cool to be able to see clear CMOS on this board, along, of course, with the USB BOS flashback. So really well balanced on here. So big fan of this guy. Again, coming at $260, I think a great option for those of you that are going to be looking for a micro ATX based board. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at our TUF Gaming BA50. So we can see it looks absolutely fantastic right here in terms of the overall design aesthetic. You can see it's got that really nice bold and bright design, and just like the Dash A model and the other white models that we've also introduced here, you get that really nice consistent white theme across not only the PCB, but the primary shroud and the other corresponding items. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at the motherboard here on our secondary cam. On this model, you can see you've got a large, of course, dual contact heatsink design as well. Of course, fully extends on over into the integrated I/O shield, the dual EPS power connectors that you're at right there. You got your AIO pump header, you got your CPU and your CPU OPT, you got your 4 QLED LEDs, you then have your ARGB headers, 2 of them right there. You got your USB-C, you also have your USB 3 legacy connection right there. Then you have your 2 SATA ports that are going to be right there. New for this generation is going to be the quick design implementation, of course, for the M.2 SSD. You can see that you can quick access that guy to be able to remove the heatsink. Keep in mind, though, that this model does not have that for the supplemental M.2 SSD heatsink, so that you will have to go ahead and remove the screws. Although I will say the cool thing that we did do is that this is something already we previously implemented. These are captive screws, so when you remove this heatsink, you don't actually have to worry about losing those screws, which is really nice. You still get, of course, the integrated quick release mechanism for the graphics card, which is also nice. As we go ahead and tour down here at the bottom, you got 2 more SATA ports, so that's going to be a total of 4 SATA ports right there. You got 3 internal USB 2 headers that are going to be down here at the bottom. So again, 2 SATA ports, another 2, 3 USB 2 headers, then additional fan headers, another ARGB header right there, your isolated audio design. You still also get, again, that corresponding audio suite that comes included with that, and then you've got another corresponding fan header right here. So if you actually count over the fan headers, you can see you've got an AIO header at the top, so that's going to be right there. 2 CPU, and keep in mind you can multiplex, so you could easily run 3 fans off of 1 single header if you needed to, but that's going to be 2 right there. So we got 2, then we go down here and you can see you've got 1, 2, 3, and then 4. So that's actually 6 total fan headers, not counting the AIO pump header that's going to be on this unit. So overall, really, really nice setup that you have for this board. I think it makes a really great foundation. If we go ahead and take a look at the corresponding I/O, let's go. And we can see here we've got your DP, HDMI. On the rear, again, very similar like XC70, at least you're going to get 2 USB-C ports that are going to be on here. So you got your USB-C. It's going to be on these models. Now, keep in mind that the specification support isn't going to be as fast in terms of the USB-C connectivity on here. So those are going to be a lower speed. but you still have that high-speed USB connectivity. So you have 10 gigabits, 10 gigabits, 10 gigabits, 10 gigabits. And then you got 2 USB-A ports that are going to be right there. So that's 6. And then there's 4 or 5 gigabit ports. So that's going to be a total of 10. Then you got 2.5 gigabit Ethernet, Wi-Fi 7. You also have clear CMOS on this board, which is great to be able to see on B50. This is also kind of a first time that we've done that as well. And then from there, you also have your traditional line level audio connections. So overall, really nice foundation to be able to go ahead and see on this B850 based motherboard refresh. So our next motherboard, this one's going to be a little bit out of the standard, but if you guys don't know, in terms of our motherboard lineup, we have our Prime series of motherboards. We then have TUF Gaming, we have ROG Strix, we have ROG formal, so that means no strict, and then we have ProArt, but we also have our WS series of products. And so our WS are defined, of course, as workstation series products. And so the workstation series products are going to be definitely for individuals that, of course, are going to be doing more prosumer or professional type of workloads. They generally will offer more specialized validation options or validation for specialized add-in cards. So things like a quad gigabit Ethernet card, or maybe like a 10G adapter, or specialized kind of add-in control cards, like things like maybe like a storage controller adapter or things like that. You'll also generally see out-of-band management options. So where like you can actually work with the motherboard independent of the operating system, like you can actually remotely power it on or monitor it or do updates or different things like that. There's quite a number of things that cause distinction between our WS motherboards, but either which way, let me go ahead and bring this one up to you guys and check it out. It's got a pretty cool different design as well. I think for me, one of the coolest things that I love about this is it's one of the rare options that if you want 10G networking and you want a micro ATX motherboard, this is beyond a super rare item. Normally you would have to buy like a 10G add-in card to be able to get that type of spec support. So this motherboard is going to give you B850. That means you can still actually overclock the DRAM. You could still actually do performance tuning for the CPU if you want PBO. You still have a robust power delivery section with VRM heatsinks, but you're also going to get some cool things that you wouldn't normally see. So one of the most key specs is going to, of course, that this has both 10 gigabit networking and also 2.5 gigabit networking available to you. In addition to that, you're also going to have the MCIO NVMe based connection, and you're going to have the IPMI remote management. So there's actually a hardware control chip that allows for out of band management options, so you can be able to remote actually into this system and to be able to have independent of the operating system hardware level control to the platform, which is pretty sweet. You can also see here, even in terms of the actual PCIe layout setup, this is actually a bit different than what you would traditionally have on standard based motherboard designs. And the MCIO NVMe based support is pretty interesting because this will actually allow for higher speed based, higher density, high speed PCIe NVMe based type of storage solutions. So traditionally with M.2 is nice, but it was never really designed for desktop based products. It was really designed for laptops, and it just ended up becoming very popular for motherboards. The main disadvantage is power, thermals, and densities because it was designed for something that had very little Z height, which was a laptop. Motherboards have tons of space in a chassis, which is the reason why most of our storage devices have always been much bigger, because we have a lot more space. This is the reason why U.2 and U.3, which hasn't seen a lot of momentum within the standard space, is used in the server and workstation space, because we don't want to be limited by power, density, or even heat. But the cool thing about that is if you look and you purchase a U.2 or U.3 drives, instead of being limited to only 8 terabytes, which right now it's pretty even still rare for M.2 SSDs, you can't get everything in 8 terabytes. Most common sizes are 1, 2, and 4, with an occasional spattering of 8 terabyte drives. You can easily get 12, 16, 20, 24, 30. I think actually the most recent updates that they have for the U.2 and U.3 specification standard for PCIe NVMe storage drives are actually 60 terabyte volumes. They're approximately about the size of like 2.5 inch drives. They have a little bit more Z height, but if you really want high density, it's great. Take for instance, in one of my systems, I'm using actually a 16 terabyte single U.2 base SSD. I love it because then I don't have to use multiple slots. I don't have to worry about even actually pulling out the motherboard or different stuff, pulling out a graphics card to get to a slot on the motherboard. I just use my actual U.2 cable, bam, I'm good to go. So I'm a big fan of it, but again, this is more common within that space. So this is an addition here. If you're somebody that's looking for high speed network connectivity, specialized storage expansion, and the out of band management options, take a look at our Pro WS based motherboard and some of what the other options that we have within that ecosystem. So this one is going to be very minimal. I'm just going to touch on it because I already noted this in the prior stream. But the introduction of, our course, our Pro graphics cards, we're right now kind of Q4 is kind of seeing the solidification of one, we started releasing all of our white series GPUs, our BTF based GPUs, the Noctua GPUs, and the Proart. So Proart is really kind of the last series that has not been released, along with some of the BTF based derivatives, although some of the BTFs have already been put out into market. So the Proart, we have specifically already announced a 5080 and a 5070 Ti. So the 5070 Ti is, as you noted right here, is going to be coming in at 910, and then we have the 5080 derivative. Now, keep in mind that there is going to be a secondary version of the ProArt-based graphics cards that are going to be the SSD version. The SSD version will mean that the actual graphics card on its rear has a PCI Express Gen 5 M.2 SSD slot on there. That when you slot that onto a motherboard that supports PCI bifurcation, means that that slot will actually be able to provide data bandwidth to both the GPU and to the actual M.2 SSD simultaneously. This can be quite exciting for just users that are looking for more streamlined, easy installation experience, along with better thermal performance, or for people that are in small form factor builds, a great way to be able to add an M.2 SSD slot to the system, where normally you would be limited. You wouldn't have the ability to add another M.2 SSD because the motherboard has no more space. So we will, again, it's important to note, you will see within the model name, it will say ProArt 5070 5080, and then we'll see like SSD, right? Because that will be the SSD version versus this model does not. And you'll also be able to clearly denote this by looking at the back of the graphics card. So if we take a look here at the back, you'll notice that there's no kind of like raised heatsink. On the SSD version, there's kind of like a raised heatsink design where you would remove the heatsink and you would slot in the M.2 SSD, put the heatsink back on, and you would be good to go. So yeah, this is going to be the ProArt 5070. For some people that are asking kind of what is the main difference between this and the Prime series based graphics cards, because the Prime series cards are also 2.5 slot. They're the same length in terms of the dimension. The main differences are going to be a couple of key factors. So if we take a look at the card one, there's going to be a nicer anodized heatsink on the inside. This is a black heatsink versus the heatsink on the Prime series are going to be silver. For this generation, we did add in this kind of like nice little wood accent design that we have on the ProArt, along with a little bit, just very subtle RGB illumination. Of course, you can control the lighting there, or you can turn it entirely off. You don't have to use it. Of course, the Prime cards are not going to have the wood grain or the RGB illumination. The capacitors are also different. They are a higher rated specification set on the ProArt series graphics cards than we have on the Prime series cards. Not to say the Prime cards are bad, because the Prime cards are built very well, and even the Prime 5070 Ti or 5080 come with very nice advancements and improvements that you won't even see amongst many competitors, even in their quote unquote higher series, things like our GPU guard or our phase change thermal pad that we're using, or even more thermal pads for the actual backplate. There are some vendors that literally, we have designs that we've seen that they don't have any thermal pads for the backplate, and then you compare it to our design, and our model has 5 thermal pads for the backplate alone, where competitors, I can show you that there's competitors that have 0 on theirs, or they don't have a PCI power LED monitor, and we do have a PCI power LED monitor. Also, on the rear of the I/O, the graphics card, there's going to be a difference that you'll see on ProArt. You have DP, Type-C, and HDMI. Now, in reality, you could have already made an active connection to any Type-C enabled monitor by just getting a DP to USB-C cable. But if you're somebody that's super specific on, you just want to use absolutely USB-C to USB-C based cable design, this graphics card has natively that USB-C connection on the graphics card. So DP, Type-C, and HDMI, versus if we were to look at the Prime is going to be different. It will not have that Type-C connectivity. One is going to be MuseTree, and the other one is going to be this multi-LM tuner software, which is pretty sweet. MuseTree is our free application, which actually allows you to create generative AI locally, and it's not cloud-based. You can actually pick your generative modeling system and then be able to go ahead and enter in your prompts, and then be able to make quick and easy adjustments locally rendered on your system. So if you want to be able to dabble in stuff, but you don't want to have to pay subscription or tokens cost, you don't want people to see what you're attempting to generate or do, and you just want that anonymity and privacy, it's a really great piece of software. I've actually been quite impressed with the usability and the functionality with it. And definitely, like I said, try it out. If you have an ASUS graphics card, it comes for free. It's a really cool piece of software. The multi-LM tuner also gives you a fantastic way that if you want to be able to start getting into messing around with LLMs, is that we give you a really nice, easy, accessible front end system that allows you to actually pick the LM model that you want. And again, you can do that all locally on your system. And there will be a special advantage to the SSD model where you can actually kind of offload portions of the LLM to run specifically on the SSD that's on the GPU. But regardless, you can run the multi-LM tuner software on any one of the ASUS 50 series graphics cards. So if you buy a ProArt, you buy TUF Gaming, if you buy a Prime, they all have actually access to MuseTree, and they all have access to the multi-LM tuner software. And there's no other vendor offering this type of comprehensive software suite. So I tell you, if you haven't tried it out, try it out. It's pretty cool. Update here on the power supply side. I talked about power supplies last time. So here, just giving you guys an update, you can see that we will be finally bringing in the ROG Strix Platinum. I talked about this, that we were going to be bringing it in Q4. So this is now finally the follow-up where we already have the ROG Strix Platinum standard models, so the black models. This is a really great option if you don't want to go into the Thors. The Thors are fantastic in terms if you want that newer ATX specification, you want the OLED display, but so many chassis, they don't even have a window for the wattage display. So if you just want an ultra performant platinum based power supply with our great build quality, you want the exclusive GPU voltage stabilizer design that you can only find on our ROG power supplies, this is a great way to get it without going into the Thor. So I'm really a big fan of the ROG Strix power supplies. And now we have a white model here with the ROG Strix Platinum White Edition. If you also want to save a little bit of money, I think I'm a big fan of the TUF Gaming the TUF Gaming white power supply version, which also comes with full white, fully etched modular cables, even including the end connector is actually gray, so it's really nice. Some vendors, they're kind of weird. They have the the power supply cable and then it still ends in a black terminal connector, so it still looks a little bit weird if you really kind of want that more kind of consistent white cohesive look. But both of them will have the same. But if you want the even more performance design, that the ROG Strix model with the GaN MOSFETs, you also want the GPU voltage stabilizer design, then check out this model. So you can see coming at 250, we have the ROG Strix Platinum 1000 watt in white. Okay. So first one is going to be an update here for a basic USB 2.5 gigabit Ethernet adapter. Maybe you've got an older system, you're really happy with it. Maybe it's a laptop, maybe it's a mini PC, maybe it's a desktop, and maybe you want to be able to upgrade to 2.5 gigabit networking, and you don't want to even use an add-in card. We do have an add-in card available, but if you want to do it through USB, here you go. We've got the USB C 2500 V2. We already had V1. You might be able to maybe find V1 at a little bit of promo pricing if it's still out there from some occasional retailers, but this model will be coming in, replaces it, and you're going to good to go. It's plug and play solution. You plug it in, you're all set, and you've got 2.5 gigabit networking. So if you want to be able to upgrade to 2.5 gigabit networking, bam, there you go. We also do have 10 gigabit add-in cards for PCIe, and we also have Wi-Fi 7 PCIe wireless adapters as well. And we also recently launched the ROG Wi-Fi 7 USB-based adapter, the ROG USB BE92, I believe. If you want to be able to also have Wi-Fi 7, but maybe you got an older system and you want to be able to add it via USB, you can have that as an option as well. So that is going to be that guy, and we're good to go on that side. So next one is going to be under our travel lineup, and this is going to be the RT AX50 Go. So this is going to be our most compact travel router that we have made. This is super tiny. This guy is really, 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 really small. It's like literally like probably about yay big in terms of this. It's smaller than like the can. It's like I don't know how many ounces are the mini cans of like a soft drink. You know, you have already the small, the very small kind of like small compact cans, but then there's like even like a smaller like half height size. This is a very, very tiny product you can see right here. But some of the cool things that we have with this unit is that you still get Ethernet connectivity. This uses actually our USB WAN technology. So that means that you can take any iPhone or you can take any Android phone, plug this into the USB port, and we can take that 4 or 5G cellular signal, provide that to this unit, and now you can immediately have then a Wi-Fi 6 access point that's available to you. You also have rich management options within there, whether it's parental controls, running VPN on device, being able to set quality of service filters or things along those lines. All of those options are available to you. There's also what is called WISP mode connectivity. So this means it can be bridged into different actually exposed access points that are commonly found at things like airports or hotels. That is also going to be available to you. You can see, again, very lightweight at 100 grams in terms of the unit. And of course, the power functionality, you can use USB-based power delivery. So this is a great addition if you're being able to want to have something that provides you a more comprehensive, stable, reliable Wi-Fi experience on the go. That's your own network that you're providing connectivity from, like I said, from the 4 or 5G cellular signal that you have from your phone. Just connect it and you're good to go. Again, doesn't matter Android or iPhone. It's actually a driver-free technology, so you don't have to go through and manage software. You only need the software if you want to be able to go ahead and maybe manage more some of the advanced firmware level features or functions. So if you want more performance or you want more speed, we're also going to be upgrading from the Wi-Fi 6 standard here to the Wi-Fi 7 standard, and that is going to be for this guy for the RTBE858 Go. So this is still also going to be very compact in terms of this unit, but you're going to be stepping up to Wi-Fi 7 speeds, and you also are even going to get 2.5 gigabit networking on this. Now, one cool thing that I didn't note on both of these is both of these products can actually be used in a hybrid capacity in your home. So if you have an ASUS network already, so you have an ASUS router or you have an ASUS mesh network, and you wanted to be able to add these to actually your node in your home to be able to give you a little bit more coverage. So when you're not traveling, you can essentially use these to extend the Wi-Fi in your home if you have a pre-existing ASUS network. So it's pretty cool that you can kind of have these serve not only as a travel router, but also as a node in your home to be also expand additional coverage. And that would also be the case here with the BA58 Go. And I love the fact that this one, like I said, steps up from gigabit connectivity to 2.5 gigabit. Along with the Wi-Fi 7 and the MLO support, this is going to give you even much faster speeds. Works really well if you're using more newer devices on the market. So if you're using newer generation laptops, newer handhelds, newer phones, newer tablets that might have Wi-Fi 6E or Wi-Fi 7, and you want to be able to get even better speeds from that and maximize the speed and performance that you have from your 4 or 5G cellular-based device. So both of these models pretty much are hitting right now in terms of the overall availability. We have still one more travel router, which we have not released, which hopefully will be released by the end of the year. And that will be our flagship 5G Go model, which will also be fully IP certified and also have SIM support. So that one wouldn't require you to connect your phone to it to be able to provide the cellular signal. You could actually just get a SIM card, connect the SIM card, and bam, you would be able to have, of course, connectivity anywhere based on that SIM card, although it will still support the USB WAN feature. So you kind of have either or available to you. You can still use the USB WAN feature, or you can go ahead and utilize the SIM-based feature functionality. So both of them will be available to you. And we're going to go here. One's going to be the TUF Gaming BE9400. So this is going to be a really nice option for those of you who want to step up to finally going into a tri-band based router, but you're not looking to kind of break the bank. Tri-band has generally been quite a bit more expensive. For reference, when we first launched Wi-Fi 7, we had the BE96. That model launched at a price point of almost about $600. So this is about half the price, and you're still going to be able to get tri-band. Now that model is still going to have some other spec upgrades to it, like it'll have a faster chipset. It has even a faster level of performance. It has 10G connectivity available to it. But this, I think, for a lot of users, hits a really great balance to give them outstanding coverage, great speed, great feature set, and functionality. So what do we get here? We're going to get tri-band. So that means it's going to give us 2.45 gigahertz and 6 gigahertz connectivity. We are going to have a huge number of ports. This is going to have 4 2.5 gigabit ports and then 3 2.5 gigabit ports on there, and then 1.25 gigabit WAN port. So in total, that's actually 8 ports that you have on this unit. So it's got a massive dense switch in there that's going to be great for connecting to your mini PC or your NAS or your range of devices and being able to have a multi-gig standard. I absolutely love that type of flexibility and functionality is on there. You're also going to get our best-in-class kind of gaming grade feature set where we have optimizations for gaming and for different types of streaming services. You can do this all through the ASUS router app, or you can do it through our great WRT interface. Also, from a warranty perspective, compared to many other vendors on the warranty line, we offer a much better warranty coverage for our routers and mesh networking products than competitors. Most competitors, some of them have even less than a year coverage, and the vast majority only 1 year. Our networking products have a 3-year warranty coverage, along with no paywall features. If you're a parent and want to even be out parental controls, there's companies like Eero, TP-Link, Netgear that all actually paywall many of their features. So you actually have to pay like a monthly subscription to be able to maintain advanced kind of specialized features or functions within the firmware. Things like our quality of service, our VPN router unfunctionality, our parental controls, all of these are built into the life of the product. There's no additional cost for you to run these features, and we actively sustain and support them with continued firmware updating to be able to ensure that you get a great level of features, functionality, and performance from the unit. But I want to also touch lastly on another update for a little bit more of an upgrade if you want even more performance. So you even want a faster based chipset and you want even more features. We have now the ROG Strix GSB 12000. So this will be a higher spec unit. So if you remember, the other one we said was a 9400 megabit unit. That's the number of kind of the total bandwidth that has available to you. So 9.4 gigabits. This one is 12 gigabits, right? So it's overall a faster type of unit in terms of that processing capability. It has a more also optimized antenna design that gives not only faster performance, but it also is more minimal in terms of the design, right? The other one had the external antennas. Here, all the antennas are packaged inside, which is quite challenging. It takes a lot of engineering to kind of optimize the antennas when you don't have them externally set up in this regard. So here you get that 2.4, the 5, and the 6 gigahertz. You're going to have our MLO implementation, which is great because not all actually vendors will actually offer MLO-based support. And if we go over here, you can also see that you're going to upgrade. We go to a 2 gigahertz quad core based processor, and this unit actually has 2 gigs of DDR memory that is there also for additional processing capabilities for this actual router. And then on the port side, you still get massive switch functionality. So this again has 8 ports. You have a total of 8 2.5 gigabit ports on there, including the 2.5 gigabit for WAN. And one other really cool feature that I want to touch on that both the TUF gaming model does and this model support is that USB port that we have on our units can work as a backup feature. And one of the really great things about that backup feature is that you can actually take your phone, connect that to the port, and if your ISP service ever goes down, so let's say you have Comcast or AT&T or Time Warner, whoever might be your internet service provider, and let's say it were to go down, you can just connect your phone to that, and then you can immediately have a backup. Your router will now use your phone as that primary 4G or 5G cellular signal, and that will become your new kind of internet service provider until your primary internet service provider comes back online. That is built in free into the firmware functionality we have for actually all of our USB-enabled routers. So whether you buy a mesh networking product or whether you buy a standard router, they all have that feature, which is actually pretty cool. So yeah, this is a great unit. Again, this model also supports AI mesh with a lot of other really cool features and functions. If you want to learn more about some of the really great networking features, maybe consider checking out some of the streams that we have that talk about some of our networking centric designs. We might be maybe do an updated kind of deep dive into some of the really cool options that we have in our firmware, because there's so many things I think people aren't aware that we can do within our routers. Like, I'll just give you one as an example. If you want to set up one of the dedicated bands, this being a tri-band router, in my house, I actually have one of my bands set up as a dedicated VPN band. So that means all I do is when I want to be on a VPN, I connect to that band specifically, and the VPN is always active. And that's great because it means that anybody that's using the house doesn't have to like turn on an extension or do this, or they don't have to understand anything. The moment that they want the anonymity or the benefits of a VPN, they just connect to that band, and now you're using the VPN. And if you want a normalized connection, then you can do that. This can also even benefit you from a gaming perspective, where we have what are called gaming centric VPN setups, which can actually reduce the number of hops that you have to go through for your traditional servers. And we can go through optimized game centric servers to actually help to reduce ping and latency in scenarios. So there's actually some really cool stuff that we can do with our gaming centric designs that we have available for you.
Thanks for joining us here on PC Gaming Tech Summary, and I plan to do another video on the AMD software for GPUs. Yes, just going through that a bit more and explaining it, as well as review. I do have some more ASUS video footage that I can put together and summarize. That's what we do here. We summarize, shorten things. Yeah, and so I'm happy to do that. Thanks for joining us here on PC Gaming Tech Summary, and don't forget, you'll be seeing me in the next video.